Welcome to MMRC. Dear students, today we are going to discuss about globalization and public administration. Previously we have discussed about the importance of public administration, changing nature of public administration, and how the public administration has an interaction with the private administration, etc. In that, we identified and located public administration is a governmental administration, an activity of government and state activities. But in reality, public administration is having a link with other societal organizations like private organizations and civil society, etc. After the trends of globalization, there is a lot of change has taken place in various societal systems. Public administration is also a part of a society, and globalization impact on public administration is there. Dear students, this is an important and latest area to understand the changing dynamics of public administration with the impact of globalization. This lecture basically discusses about some of the important objectives of identifying the changing perspectives and meanings of globalization in the new millennium. The new millennium, almost about 2000 onwards, we are talking this is a new millennium. We entered into the new millennium. Along with the new millennium, globalization is entered with us. What are the implications of globalization on state, on society, and in public administration? This is one of the important area. We are going to discuss the various perspectives of globalization and how we can understand this. Globalization as a concept, it has become very popular worldwide. It is not a new phenomenon, because we are now in the third arena of globalization, or otherwise third wave of globalization. What were the previous two waves of globalization? First important aspect of the globalization was, we will say, the Roman Empire. This is called about a first wave of globalization. The second wave of globalization, we talk about Columbus and how he has entered into the other parts of this. This is early globalization. It is 3 C's. 3 C means commerce, Christianity, and civilization. This is the second arena of globalization. First time, world has become a small unit, and world first time has brought into a one market. This is called about the second wave of globalization. Then the third wave of globalization, that is what we are now thinking of. This started from the 2000. Computers are started dominating, internet is started dominating the world. This is about a new found power that individuals to collaborate globally. So first one was an authority domination, a military power. Second was an industrial revolution, and third is basically is a cyber revolution. So this phenomenon is called enabling, empowering, and enjoying individuals into the small groups. So today, what is this concept? How it started dominating the public administration is our discussion. Now, this has appeared in scholarly writings and about political and management discussions in various media, and also in all circles of human inquiry and all over the world. One of the major issues in public administration related is, we will discuss about the governance aspects. Governance and public administration, and what extent the globalization has shown impact on these important areas. You take about in an international level, two mega trends are visible on the rise of market economy, and the other is advance in the political pluralism. These are the first important aspect is how the globalization aspect started. You take about a political point of view, the fall of Soviet Union, we start about the 1991 onwards. Then global power has entered into only some of the countries, etc. At the same time, markets are started dominating. India entered into the LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, new economic policy, new education policy, new agriculture policy, new commerce policy. You talk of anything, all these are started one by one after the globalization systems. So, most of the developed and developing countries are opting for an open and free market economy, except 2-3 countries like Zimbabwe and Cuba and etc. Rest of the world entered into the same umbrella, that is a market economy umbrella, in the name of liberalization, privatization, globalization. This is what we call LPG. Liberalization, slowly we are opening the market. Privatization, we are giving the market for 50% by private people and etc. Globalization, we are opening the whole market for the globe. So, a Korean person can come and sell here, you can go and sell it in Korea, a Japan fellow can go on to the other part of the world, so etc. This is in a global market, it is open. It means whenever we say this, this is known as the internationalization of the world economy. Second important point is the Western culture and values of a developed democracies has put a great pressure on societies that do not have the same social traditions. This is one of the important area that Western culture is dominating. Consequently, this effect has the gradual assimilation of the values. There is a change of the values, food habits are changed. People are going to the various international products for the food, like a Kentucky Fried Chicken, you are going to have the McDonald's, you identify this type of a pizzas. So, they are coming and giving to you. What is these all? All these are your cultural values are also, food values, cultural values are also under change, impact of globalization. So, then the final result of it is the development process is the power centers in societies which were historically hierarchical. So, the previously we are having about a dominance of the power centers, so and so is going to be the power center and etc. But now the state is shifting from productive activities to the role of providing social and infrastructure services. Now, the whole important aspect is what is cheaper item is available. We are buying things from China, computer tables, computers, printers. The point is now what happening is wherever the cheap item is there, you are taking from that, and the local productive systems are affected with that type of a system. One of the important author, Mr. Stever, has claimed that end of state and administration. Similarly, Fukuyama, this is another important global writer, predicts that the end of history and of the last man. Because due to the fall of Soviet system of USSR, and he advises all governments to abandon their existence. But as a students of public administration, what exactly is going to happen for the subject of public administration, because there is a change in economy, change in society, change in culture, change in our understandings of the various things. So, what are the changing perspectives? Several mega changes in the last 2 decades of the 20th century and the few years of the 21st century seem to have shaken up the whole world and produced new worldwide transformations in political systems, in governance, in state-society relations and in public administration. Now, presently 3 changes of global significance have occurred which have influenced the thinking about states, governance, public administration and state-society relations. The first major change which has caused revolutionary change is technological innovation in general, but most important of the computer, internet, satellite communication, which have produced giant steps towards the world integration and removal of many artificial barriers in learning about other nations and peoples around the world. The second change is another important is that degree of globalization, which is caused by the many factors including government's apathy, innovations in information technology, and different policies of a country in international situation and ideology. The one of the important aspect is, second important aspect is that how these countries are dominating the world. The countries are dominating the world in the globalized system is because of the innovations in the technology and how they are capable to adapt to the new situations. Third important aspect is, which has altered the development strategy, was the collapse of the socialist economies. These are the three important dominant changes now what we are facing. Now, before entering into the various aspects of the impact on public administration, now we will see the meaning and definition of globalization in various contexts. First, globalization has been defined by numerous scholars. Various scholars have defined it. For economists, globalization is an advanced step towards a fully integrated world market. For political scientists, consider globalization as a new world order with supranational and global governing bodies. For a business scholars, it is an unlimited opportunities in the borderless world, and others see globalization is a phenomenon driven only by the private sector, corporations, not governments. So, these are the some important aspects that in globalization also public administration plays the same role with a different type of a costumes, with a different type of a faces, that we have to understand as a student of public administration. Now, globalization as a process and a means to achieve the goals of globalism. It stands for a constellation of international and trans-governmental forces that have altered the cultural, demographic, economic, social and political character of countries and communities. Then, what is the role of a state? It is a trans-governmental forces are dominating. It is changing the cultural, demographical, economic, social, political character. All these are in a change. Implications for public administration. The world is experiencing a high degree of globalization and its impact. Globalization has transformed the country, the polity as well as the society. As we discussed earlier, globalization has many consequences, both positive and negative, for societies and the governance systems. Because these impacts are not equal on the developed and developing nations. They have a distributed to various aspects. For example, a country is benefited a lot, another country is not benefited that much. Now, going to some of the important aspect is that what are the implications for public administration? First important aspect, some of the authors believe that globalization would end the state and its public administrative system. But this has not happened and public administration continues to persist. The bureaucracy is charged to fight various aspects. Secondly, there is a shift in the approach of the functions of the state. There is a global transformation of the state and public administration is moving to market driven and corporate state. This market driven corporate state is ruled by trans world corporations. It is often argued that the market driven state is a coercive and tend to serve the interests of the corporate capitalism. So, the second important argument is that state role and activities are reduced and the state slowly moving towards the help the corporate groups. Thirdly, it is argued that globalization is posing a serious threat to state sovereignty, democracy and individual freedom of most developing countries. Supranational organizations such as the World Bank and IMF, World Trade Organization as well as other organizations are dominated by the United States, Europeans and other transworld corporations. They are forcing the member states to adapt to globalized decisions that may go against about the national interest. In the global age, identity becomes a fundamental issue, both at an individual and a societal level. Serving primary the interest of the globalizing superpowers creates problems of poverty and underdevelopment. Fourthly, as we already discussed that globalization is seen a threat to the ecological system also. Most developing and developed nations pay little and less preservation of the natural environment. The global warming has been much higher in the recent decades. This has in turn resulted in increased average temperature of oceans, decline of glaciers and snow cover. 70% increase in the greenhouse gases such as CO2, methane and nitrous oxide in the atmosphere in the past 35 years. The global increased carbon dioxide concentration is due to the use of fossil fuels and land use change, while that of methane and nitrous oxide is primarily due to agriculture. Fifth important aspect is that the superpower nations and the transworld corporations as the lords of poverty. Globalization tends to increase poverty and inequality worldwide. It causes more unemployment through technological innovations, drains governing systems with tax subsidies, tax expenditures and demands massive expenditures on security and military functions for policing and social control. The result is that increasing crisis in the governance and public administration and eventual social revolutions at home and worldwide. Finally, as some of the important authors are mentioning about, globalization will produce more war, not less as its forces and institutions will use violence to promote the goals of corporate globalization. On the other hand, some of the authors claims that global age, peace and security depend upon the cooperation of nations, as well as that recognition that no nation, however powerful, can cope with the problems it faces alone. Creating cosmopolitan nations with an overall identity but happy in their diversity, it is the main way in which an effective international agenda can be forged and furthered. The important understanding of globalization is that countries can come together, identify a global agenda and work. Changing role of state. The strategy to pursue good governance and development objectives means a changed role for the state, and debate continues about what is the appropriate role of the state is going to have. The government in a developing country like ours has a long tradition of interventions on the micromanagement of the economy. These interventions include wage and price fixing, control of credit, marketing, restrictions of the foreign investments and profits. The partnership between the government and the private sector has a new dimension now, because market is increasing, private sector dominating, transnational corporations are coming. They are eclipsing the government activities, but there cannot be any development without a proper public administration in the country. Far from contributing to development and governance, public administration can be in itself a source of resistance to the change. It can constitute as a barrier if it is routine, bureaucratic and invasive. Public administration draws strength and importance from the fact that it is an essential organ of the state, as the state first of all responsible for the regulation of economy. So, whenever we discuss about the impact of globalization, we can't underestimate the role of the state. Though they say in the New World Order, end of state, end of man, etc. But the state continues as a leading role in such areas of manpower training, technological innovation, stimulation of a small and medium scale industries, export and promoting the exports, etc. These are the matters which the state can contribute to growth and equity in a society. The state cannot abdicate its authority from pursuing social and economic objectives, including its commitment to reduce poverty, ensure equal opportunity and provide social services. Social policy cannot be privatized totally. Reducing disparities is a crucial aspect of the political dimension of governance and reflects attempts to resolve political and social conflicts. Only the state can guarantee equality of opportunity, combat the social inequalities and protect the weak in the field of health, education and housing. Moreover, environmental protection is also conservation, safeguarding of historical and cultural heritages and scientific research have become the responsibility of the state. So, in the area of the globalization, whenever we discuss that, public administration continues to be there as part of the state and also check the balances between the privatization and its domination. What exactly how the public administration role is going to change? In the context of privatization, necessary interventions by the state must be limited, and this is one of the essential problems of our times. Today, there are two dominating views. One is that state should not interfere the domestic economic activities of the citizens. This is one of the dominant view. The other says the state has a dominating role to play. In these days, there is a need in every country to review periodically the missions of the state to ensure that they are neither too ambitious nor too modest. In the exercise of these missions, the administration has a vital role to play, not only in terms of staffing and budgetary credit, but also from the point of view of the results in the formulation and implementation of public policies. The main activity and concern of public administration is implementing laws and policies of the government. But there are also a range of other important activities carried on these public organizations. One of them is that bureaucracies make policy, and in essence it makes laws. The laws passed by the legislatures are often general and require elaboration by the administrators. The secondary legislations prepared by the bureaucracy not only makes the meaning of the laws clearer, but it permits the application of the expertise of the career administrators to policy. Public service must not only be a part of the national and international changes taking place, it should be at the forefront of process guiding, initiating, motivating and changing. Making a government work will is a great concern not only in a developing but also developed countries. The government and its public administration arm have a crucial role in helping societies embrace change and economies function smoothly. A dynamic civil society and a professionally trained and dedicated civil service are the twin pillars of a constructive relationship between the state and society. In the current phase of globalization, public administration has assumed a particular importance with the object to exercise effective economic sovereignty, control over national resources and environment, and to ensure that their use by the private sector, especially by its foreign components, is in a harmony with the national objectives. For our country, which is at the nation building stage, the primary goal of governance should be strengthen the national unity by supporting the consolidation of elites or institutions with the will and further national integration. So, we have discussed about the various areas into number one, what is the waves of globalization, what are the components of globalization, what are the concepts created by the globalization, and what are the meanings and definitions of globalization. At the later level, we discussed about how the public administration systems are changed in the arena of the globalization into cellular organization, networking organization, virtual organizations, etc. How the decision making systems are changed from a hierarchical system to small teamworks, flattened bureaucracies. So, with this you are going to hope that you will get a clear cut understanding of what is the impact of globalization in public administration. What is globalization, and explain the three waves of globalization. What are the dominant characteristics and concepts of globalization? How they are dominating the developed and developing countries. Write and analyze some of the important definitions given by the economists, business people on globalization. Explain the three different concepts of the globalization and its impact on public administration. What organizational change has occurred because of globalization in bureaucratic systems?